Mikel Brown Jr. is turning heads once again.
You are Locked On Louisville, your daily podcast on the Louisville Cardinals. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Card Nation, what's going on, everyone? Welcome into this second Tuesday episode of the Locked On the Louisville podcast. I'm your host, Dalton Pence. This is my fifth year covering U of L, third year hosting this show, and I want to take the time to thank you all for making us your first listen of the day. Just a reminder, Locked On Louisville, free and available on all streaming services, 5 days a week, your team every day. On today's show, we're going to react to Louisville star point guard Mikel Brown Jr. turning heads with the USA squad in FIBA U19 Men's World Cup group stage play. The five-star point guard has been incredible, and many of the national media members are noticing. More on that coming up shortly. We'll also talk about two potential starting five options for the Cardinals this fall. The three-guard lineup, who are the locks to start, and much more. I know it's been a talking point since Ali Khalifa was ruled eligible last week, so we will talk about two potential starting fives that I could see happening for Louisville. But first, today's episode of the show is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. All you have to do, visit FanDuel.com to get started. I mentioned on the first Tuesday episode very briefly that if something notable were to pop up, we would pause the football position previews and continue them after an impromptu episode. After all, not really time sensitive at the moment. Football season still 2 months away, but when we come back on Wednesday, Thursday, we will have the running backs preview and the wide receivers preview. But Mikel Brown Jr.'s play simply cannot be ignored, guys. He has been incredible in group stage play for the USA squad in the FIBA U19 Men's World Cup. In 3 games, he has averaged 19.3 points a game, 6.3 assists, 3 rebounds, shooting 54 from the field, 56.5% from 3, and has been a player that many national media members, whether it is from the NBA draft scope, recruiting, just national college basketball landscape, they've identified Mikel Brown Jr. as one of the top stars at this competition, along with Koa Pete, the Arizona signing. And USA's 3-0 in Group D. They beat Australia, France, and Cameroon. And in that Australia game, really, this is why those statistical numbers and efficiency numbers are even more impressive, because game 1, he didn't really shoot all that great. He almost had a triple-double, 10 points, 7 assists, 6 rebounds. He also had a steal and a block. But from the field, 3 of 14 from the field, 2 of 8 from 3, 2 of 4 from the free throw line. Not a great day at the office from a scoring perspective. But something that encourages me so much with Mikel Brown Jr. is that even when the shot's not falling or he's not scoring all that efficiently, he still finds ways to be a net positive. He still finds ways to make an impact, whether it's facilitating the basketball, finding open teammates, leading the offense, crashing the boards, playing solid defense, you name it. That's something that encourages me the most about this upcoming season, is that even when Mikel's shot is not on, and it's not always going to be, right? Everyone has an off night. He's still going to be able to be a plus level guy on the floor. But those shooting woes didn't last for long, because when the France game rolled around, he scored 24 points. He had 4 assists, but he shot 6 of 9 from 3, 8 of 11 from the field. And now on Tuesday, earlier today, the Cardinals, the USA squad defeated Cameroon. He had 18 points in the first half, 24 overall, 9 of 12 shooting, 4 of 6 from 3, 8 assists, 2 rebounds. And like I said, most of his production in the first half, he only played 3 quarters. The USA squad won all 3 of their games. They will play in knockout games beginning on Wednesday Of course, with me going out of town, we're not really going to react to that. The next 2 episodes after this are going to be pre-recorded football position previews. But again, Mikel Brown Jr. is turning heads once again. I think that it's not really opinions changing. It's more so people doubling down on opinions that Mikel Brown Jr. is not only the best guard in the class, now all of a sudden there's people suggesting, well, hold on a second. We talk about Darren Peterson. We talk about AJ DeBansa. We talk about Cameron Boozer. But what about Mikel Brown Jr., guys? Hold on a second. This is a tweet from Jordan Stocks on Twitter. Says, I'm not saying AJ DeBansa, due to size and versatility, isn't a better prospect than someone like Mikel Brown. But Mikel Brown is, in all capital letters, way better than DeBansa right now. It's not close. Everyone can see it. Now, of course, these are just observations and opinions. So everyone's going to have some differentiating opinions. But I'm finding it very interesting to see how the non-biased national media is starting to view guys like Mikel Brown. Jordan Stocks, by the way, is someone who talks about basketball on Twitter. Another person on Twitter, Samad Hines, said this. It's even going one step further. It's not just about freshmen now. Louisville's Mikel Brown Jr. isn't just looking like he'll be coming in as one of the best freshmen in the country, but looking like he will be one of the best players in college basketball next season. Very intriguing things to say. Now, I'm not saying that verbatim this is what's going to happen, and honestly, I kind of hope that it is, because that's some pretty high praise, but it's not just them. Those are just 2 examples of things that people are saying about Louisville's incoming point guard. Now, for me, for the record, I think that Darren Peterson is the best freshman in college basketball. I think that he is the number 1 pick in 2026 NBA draft. But outside of him, I'm going to be honest. I understand that AJ DeBansa is a better prospect. But Mikel Brown Jr. doesn't really have a significant weakness. He's a lead guard that can facilitate the ball. He's the best passing guard in the class. He's showing how effortless his scoring repertoire is at times, and also showing you that when he's locked in, he can be a really good defender who also crashes the boards pretty heavily. So my prediction a couple weeks ago is something that I'm not afraid to share. If I'm wrong, then call me out on it. But if you have to go back a full year to call me out, I have to wonder, why are you spending your time like this? But to me, Mikel Brown Jr. is a top 5 pick in the 2026 NBA draft. That's just the way that I see it. Now, the rebuttals are kind of funny to me. The first rebuttal was, well, Mikel's not showing out on the brightest or under the brightest lights on the biggest stage. He's struggling against Australia. And there's a lot of people that documented that. And then he had the games against France and Cameroon. And now it's, the level of competition is just not that good. And it's just crazy to see the goalposts moving. But the only way that I will really acknowledge the competition aspect is if he had an underwhelming spring and just so happened to turn things on. That's not really been the case. He's been incredible all spring. McDonald's All-American game, Hoop Summit, or Nike Hoop Summit, USA Camp, USA Group Games in the World Cup. He's been incredible. He's been one of the best players for the United States in this 3-game stint, but also amongst his 5-star peers over the past couple of months. So Mikel Brown Jr. continuing to turn heads and gain a ton of national recognition. Speaking of Mikel, is he one of the locks to start for next season? I think he's one of the few. We'll discuss what I believe is going to be the most likely starting lineup for the Louisville Cardinals next season when we come back on this Tuesday edition of the Locked On Louisville podcast. Card Nation, today's episode of the show is brought to you by FanDuel. Summer sports are in full swing, whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action. FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You're already following the action, so why not make it a little bit more thrilling? Because with FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburnt at the beach or out into the sun. It's easy to use, fast to pay out, and makes even regular season games feel like must-watch events. When I'm watching my Houston Astros, I like to make things a little bit more interesting and see what the pitching lines are going to look like, because the Astros pitching staff has been incredible in the month of June, and I'm hoping that continues through the month of July. So if you're new to FanDuel, that's okay. New customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. Card Nation, thanks again for making us your first listen of the day. Just a reminder, Locked On Global, free and available on all streaming services 5 days a week. Your team every day. Of course, we're having an impromptu men's basketball episode in the middle of the football preview series, and I'm okay with that, of course. I mean, we have enough time to, fully prepare for the football season. It's only July 1st. But along with the Mikel Brown Jr. performances, one question that I've seen many ask in the YouTube comments is, with Ali Khalifa now ruled eligible, what does the Louisville men's basketball starting five look like? Now, a couple of things that I'm going to say before. Number one, the Cardinals substitute or will substitute frequently. Like, Pat Kelsey is known for substituting a lot. We didn't get to see it a lot last year because of the injuries that the Cardinals sustained. But this year, if the Cardinals are healthy, you're going to see a lot of guys rotating in and out. And it's also worth noting that whoever starts might not be who closes. Like, the starting five might not be who closes out the game. It could be based upon matchups. It could be based upon performance. It could be based upon, feeding the hot hand, who's playing the best, who's in foul trouble, is someone hurt. Like, there's so many factors that go into this equation. And I think that the reality is that the closing five is going to look different for the most part, especially early on in the season. And maybe the starting five looks different game 1 versus game 21. So I have been pretty adamant on what I believe will be the starting five next year. We're going to look at two options. One is sort of like the rebuttal option that I'm seeing become popular. But this is my specific starting five, because I think that Mikel Brown Jr. is a lock. I think he's a lock to start. He is your point guard, PG1. He's going to be a guy that you lock in to start. So is there anyone else that you can lock in to start? I think that the answer is possibly no, because Kason Pryor is coming off of that injury, that ACL tear back in November. So is he going to be fully ready to go and start early on? TBD. If there is another guy that is as close to a lock to start, it's Ryan Conwell, the Xavier transfer, third team All Big East. He ended up averaging 16.5 points per game, 45% shooting, 41.3% from three. Just really good at the Power 5 level. A really challenging Power 5 conference in the Big East, by the way. So for me, I think that it's all about three guard lineups. I think that your starting lineup is going to factor in three guards. The first one's Mikel Brown Jr., pretty self-explanatory, right? I think Ryan Conwell also slides into the starting role because he's that veteran player, that, potential. Honestly, Ryan Conwell has been a guy that's not getting a ton of national love and could be a guy that could be like an all ACC first team level player. And then I'm throwing Isaac McKneely into the backcourt too. So, of course, it's starting three guards, positionless basketball. McKneely was really good for a bad Virginia team. And you could tell it wasn't really because of him, because of how efficient he was shooting the basketball. I think that when you allow him to play a little bit more off ball, you're going to see him flourish, especially with a point guard who loves getting the basketball to open shooters next to a combo guard that can put the ball on the floor and get to the basket, and Ryan Conwell. So you've got a freshman star surrounded by two high-level veteran guards. Really good backcourt. And then you look at the front court, and I think that Cason Pryor is going to be your starting four. I think you have the versatility. He's going to be able to set the tone defensively. And I think that assuming he's healthy, he's going to be your starter at the 4. And the 5, to me, is Sananda Fruit. Sananda went from a couple months ago, okay, this guy could be a rotational guy, to, is he a first-round pick? I'm not suggesting that he is, but it's worth kind of pondering that question, right? He was one of the best young players in the basketball Bundesliga, which is one of the top leagues in Europe. He was a really good rim protector, solid face-up player, a growing offensive skill set. Sananda Fruit is going to be the starting 5 for the Cardinals, in my opinion, regardless of lineup. And look, I understand with Ali Khalifa and his familiarity with the system, because he's been with the program for a year despite redshirting. He's got his body transformed. He's the best passer in the front court by far. And he can stretch the floor and hit threes. You could maybe make the case that Khalifa could slide into that starting role, but I think that Fruit is a player that you're going to see, even if he doesn't start game 1. Sananda Fruit will start the majority of the games. I think he's your best center on the roster, best center overall, and high upside guy. I think Khalifa is a player that comes off the bench and is going to play anywhere from probably around 20 minutes a game at the 5 or at the 4, depending on who is on the floor for the Cardinals. And I think that Fruit is going to start at the 5, and Khalifa is going to come off the bench. Of course, guys, don't forget, it's not always about who's starting. It's about, am I going to get my minutes? Like, if you get, like, that's how you get players to buy in, right? Of course, being able to convince them that they're still going to get their minutes. And hey, I mean, if you're helping your team win, you can still get to the NBA, of course, by coming off the bench. Like, there's this fallacy that guys have to start or they're just not going to get drafted. Now, of course, that's not always the case, but with a system that substitutes so frequently to get guys to buy in, I mean, you saw John Calipari for how many years do that with top recruits. Like, how do you think that they got so many players to come to Kentucky? And you wonder, well, where's all the playing time coming from? But it always seemed like it worked, right? I mean, that's same with Duke, same with Kansas. You're seeing with Alabama now. That's how it is. I mean, I'm all for getting as much talent as you possibly can and figuring out the fit later. So for me, this is my personal starting 5. This is also, I feel like, one of the most likely outcomes that the Cardinals could go with. Now, the reason I chose Conwell and McKneely over a guy like Adrian Woolley from Kennesaw State is just the veteran presence. Conwell and McKneely are those veteran guys. Woolley is a rising sophomore. Both Conwell and McKneely came from Power 5 conferences, so they know that level of play. And I think that with Woolley, something that could benefit him is, not having that pressure early on to be the guy, like be the 6th man or, 6A, 6B coming off the bench and be that spark plug as a guard, but still you're playing a good amount of minutes, right? So I think that the most likely thing that we're going to see is that the Cardinals are going to go with the 3-guard lineup. probably for the majority of games. But what I'm seeing a lot of from Louisville fans is a lineup that does not feature three guards traditionally. One can be viewed as a guard, but he's more of a forward. We'll discuss that lineup when we come back on this Tuesday edition of the Locked On Louisville podcast. Just a reminder, Card Nation, I am traveling this week. I will be pre-recording a Wednesday and Thursday episode. Both of them will be position previews, running backs and wide receivers. So if anything pops up between tomorrow morning and Sunday evening, there really won't be a chance for me to record. So understand that. I appreciate your all's patience. There's going to be 17 episodes this month, so we're going to have a good month previewing football, talking about what needs to be talked about, and much more. But let's take a look at this other starting five, because this has been one that I think people have introduced. And look, if it comes down to this, if this is the starting lineup, I'm not going to hate it. I think it's a very good lineup. That lineup is Mikel Brown Jr. at the 1, right? We expected that. Everything is the same, except you're replacing Isaac McKneely with J'Vonne Hadley. Mikel Brown Jr., Ryan Conwell, J'Vonne Hadley, Kason Pryor, and Sanan Defru, which that is a very potent starting five. Don't get me wrong. And then at that point, maybe then you switch over to a 3-guard lineup with McKneely and Woolley coming off the bench. And I wouldn't hate this. I think that you have your shooting with Mikel and Conwell. Hadley, Pryor can make the shots, of course. You have really good defense. You've got solid ball handling. Like, you're not lacking anything. Like, you have your go-to scorers. Like, this is a really, really good starting five. I think that with J'Vonne Hadley's case, even if he starts, I think you're going to see a minutes reduction. I don't think it was ever in the plans for him to play 33 minutes a night last year. He started all 35 games so that's where you can make the case that, hey, look, Hadley started all 35 last year. Why is he not starting this year? You're telling me that Pat Kelsey is going to go away from him? This is where it comes down to the starting and still playing a good amount. Like J'Vonne Hadley, regardless of if he starts or not, the guy is going to play a good amount. Like, he's going to play upwards of about 25 minutes a night, and that's a pretty good number. That's what you want J'Vonne Hadley playing at. But I go back to the decision for Pat Kelsey to go to the portal early on, very quickly, and go get 3 elite level guards. Now, I think the backcourt is going to be the main strength for the Cardinals. They have a good front court, but the backcourt's the main strength. So you've got Mikel. He's going to start. We know that. So, yeah, bringing in 2 guards, that makes sense, right? That makes sense. They brought in Adrian Woolley and Ryan Conwell. And I'm like, great. That's 3 guards. So you can run 3-guard lineups. You don't have to, because your 6-man could be a really good guard off the bench that's going to play a lot. But then you went out and got Isaac McKneely, and that's where things get very, very, very interesting, because you're like, uh-oh, hold on now. Now all of a sudden you have a log jam in the backcourt. And again, that's okay, because you can make it work with positionless basketball. That's why I think that you honestly have to go with 3-guard lineups, because how did you convince 3 elite level guards to come in and compete for 2 guard spots? You know, like, there's not, like with J'Vonne, J'Vonne, Kason, Fru, and Khalifa are going to be able to, play the most between those 2 spots, and then you sprinkle in some minutes from Kenai Roots and Vangelis Zugris, and it makes sense. But with the backcourt, where your strengths are, like Mikel's going to be playing a lot. Ryan, you are expecting that he is under the assumption that he's going to be playing a lot. Same with Isaac McKneely, same with Adrian Woolley. I guess the point that I'm trying to make here, Card Nation, is that I find it difficult that either two things. Number one, Pat Kelsey lied about the playing time not being there. That doesn't seem like Pat Kelsey's character, I think. And then there's the second thing, that they just gave them so much more money that it didn't matter. That's not the case. Pat Kelsey pretty clearly convinced all three of those guards about the fit, about the role, about what that success is going to look like. And they paid him accordingly, right? I mean, let's not be naive here. But they paid him accordingly. So that's where I think that those three guard lineups are going to come into play. And even if you make the case to me that they won't start it that way, like Louisville's not going to start with a three guard lineup in the starting lineup, again, I told you all, I don't mind the Mikel, Conwell, Hadley, Pryor, Frew lineup whatsoever. I don't mind that at all. I think that's a great starting five. And then you've got two elite level guards coming off the bench, and one of those other guards might stay on. Or you have Kenai Roots replacing Hadley, and Khalifa replacing Frew, and Zugaris replacing Pryor. Like, I mean, there's so many different combinations. That's where these high-level Division I coaches are making the money that they make, is because they're being tasked with making these difficult decisions. Like, this is not easy. This is not an easy thing. You are getting a roster full of players who are used to being like either the guy or one of the go-to guys at their previous destination, and you are getting them to buy in to what it is that you're selling. That didn't really sound good. You know, what you're trying to create makes it sound like a used car sales manager. Nothing wrong with that, but of course there's that negative connotation over that when it comes to like recruiting. So I think that what's more likely to me is that the Cardinals will, for the most part, run three guard lineups. And then at times, depending on if you're going up a team with more size, or you're going up against a team where you're winning and you're just trying to play good defense, maybe then you go with a larger lineup with more versatile defenders. Or if you're losing, maybe it's more guard play. I think that there's going to be lineups this year where you're going to see four guards on the court for the Cardinals. I can see it. I think there can be times where you're playing small ball, four guard lineups, and then throwing in Case and Pryor at the five. I can see it. I can completely see it. And it wouldn't shock me whatsoever. So that is going to wrap up this second Tuesday episode of the Locked On Louisville podcast. Everyone have a great day. When we come back, Keith Artov joins the Locked On Louisville podcast to preview the running backs position for Jeff Brom's team coming up on the next episode of the show. Go Cards.